Good evening and welcome to Literature in 60 Minutes. I am Zandile Pooe. I'll be your host over the course of the hour. Today we are talking Well of Wisdom Book Club, and we are talking to the founder, Amelia Mikateko-Taylor, and she is going to be talking to us about the book club, why she started it, when it started, and who does it serve. I think in this country we know that we are underserved when it comes to education, especially for township and rural communities. So it is an important discussion for us to have as to, is our level of literacy at the rate at which it should be, and are we doing enough as the public and as the civic society in terms of helping the government, helping our learners and people in our communities to be empowered when it comes to education. So we are going to be chatting to her just after the break. Please stay tuned.
Zoe Live Radio, the abundant life experience. You and me, two in agreement. The best in praise and worship. Zoe Live Radio.
Welcome back. And as I mentioned earlier, we are talking to Amelia Taylor, and she is the founder of Well of Wisdom Book Club. Thank you so much for joining us, Amelia. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Zandi, and everybody who's listening. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to chat to you because I've been following your journey, and Well of Wisdom has been around for some time. So you can just give us a little bit of background as to who Amelia is and how did Well of Wisdom come to life?
Okay, awesome. So my name is Amelia Taylor, and I am a business analyst by profession. I'm passionate about community development and just making a difference in the world out there. And how Well of Wisdom came about, I remember it was sometime in 2016 when I had just signed up for my Facebook account, and I just found myself browsing and checking who was up to what. I was just going through people's profiles and their current achievements and all that. And Zandi, 3 hours later, I actually picked up that I had spent almost all my time being on social media, being on Facebook. And for me, that raised a bit of a concern. I was like, but with this 3 hours, I could have made something productive. I could have done something productive. Yes. I could have done something that added so much value in my life. And I thought about reading. I've always been a reader all my life. And there came a time where I was just having a lot to do in terms of my schoolwork, and just having started working as an intern. And I realized that my reading life had been stagnant. So I was like, but if I could spend so much time on social media, how about going back to my reading habits? I mean, I have personally benefited a lot from reading. So that's how then I decided to go to establish this group, the reading club, and I just the name came to me, Well of Wisdom, because reading for me goes hand in hand with being wise. So it was launched in 2016 February, and when it started, it was just an adult book club, but later on in 2018 it led to just extending it to the young ones, and currently we are running it with primary scholars between grade 4 and grade 7.
Sure. Wow, quite the interesting part about you self-introspecting and looking at what you are doing, what your actions are doing, and what kind of contribution they're making in your life. Because I believe you raised an important point there about spending so much time on social media, which is something that consumes people these days, and making that connection to say, okay, I've spent this much time, but what did I gain in exchange for, all this time that I've invested in just being on social media. So you chose to read, you chose to edify yourself with your time moving forward, which I think is quite empowering and quite inspiring. So you were inspired by a moment where you felt like I wasted time. I could have done something beneficial. So in your reading club initially, how many ladies or how many people joined you on your journey? Because I would believe those are like-minded individuals.
Yeah. So initially when we started, well, it was only myself, obviously. And then after the launch,
Yes.
a lot of people were interested. So we had about 20 members or 20 plus, between 20 and 25.
Wow.
And yeah, we would have like seminars. We hosted a lot of seminars where I remember we had different themes such as read to be better, and never stop learning because life never stops teaching. And we would invite people who would encourage us about reading. So we would meet as well on a monthly basis. So that's the number of people that we used to have and how our sessions used to run.
Sure. 20 people just off the bat like that.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? Was social media a catalyst, or how did you do your marketing?
Okay, so when I started, I was a youth leader at church.
I see.
So already there were people following me, and there's a lot of people that I find myself often in an environment where I'm with purpose-driven individuals, and they just bought into this idea. They loved it, they would come for sessions. In fact, I remember having membership forms in the launch, and there was like a huge number of response,
Wow.
So people were thirsty for this. People were like, some people would come to me and they would say, I struggle with reading, and then I just maybe I don't finish a book when I read. I just don't find any interest in reading. So I feel like that was a gap that was there, in the people that I used to hang around with. They would say that they were struggling to read. And so it led the club to growing so fast. And also I actually created a Facebook page as well. And we would do like membership drives, and people would just want to be part of this initiative.
Wow, sure. So now you've got 20 plus people in your book club. You run it from 2016, you said, to about 2018, you were doing adults only. So what made you transition from adults only to look at the basic education level from grade 4, you said, to 7?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So
so there was a time where we faced challenges in the club. When I started initially, I don't think we were clear on the type of books that we were supposed to read. So everybody would come up with their own books, and we would share random. But I'm very big on progress and on seeing how something grows and flourishes. So there was a time where the club ended up, I can say our discussions were not so productive. There were debates, unnecessary debates, wherein somebody would believe in reading a certain book, maybe a Christian-based book, and somebody would come with a book that was not written by a Christian. So, those arguments. And as a result, some people ended up not coming to the club, and some were coming just to cause, I can say, corruption, So we just decided, I think the best way for me, because I'm passionate about children, and I just thought I think for the first 2 years, it was okay just to have a team of adults. But with these challenges going on, the club won't grow. So also we had challenges with the venue. With adults, we've got responsibilities.
True.
Some couldn't make it to the sessions. I mean, we've had our successes in the team. We used to have year-end functions. I remember as adults, we would have this reading buddy thing whereby somebody would have a reading partner that they would be accountable to, and they would submit a reading log at the end of the year.
Okay.
And we would award people. I remember we would have like the best reader and a floating trophy, So my passion grew more into children because I identified that I'm from a township school, and I've seen a need in townships, also in disadvantaged communities, wherein I thought, why not extend this to children? I mean, as adults, we can meet up in seminars and discuss books, but with children, there's a huge gap there. So I just decided to just go the children's route, and I mean, that's where my passion is. And we just continue from there.
Well, so that transition, from having an adult group and now transitioning to children, how did you break into that? First of all, getting the book club and selling it to that grouping from grade 4 to grade 7. Did you start with a particular school, or how did that? Take us through how that happened.
Okay, so in 2018, I joined an organization which was spearheaded by Dr. Pooe, and the name of the organization was Global Forum for Women Entrepreneurs. And I got employed there as a director of community development projects. So an idea popped into my head where I thought, why not start a junior book club? And I went to my former primary school in Tembisa, and I spoke to the principal there, and I sent through the proposal to start a reading club for grade 4 to 7 learners. So the name of the school is Marulana Primary School, and we launched it in August 2018. And when we launched it again, the teachers loved the idea because some teachers from other schools were also part of the event, and they asked that we also go to their schools. So to date, we've got 3 schools in Tembisa that we were busy with the project for reading.
Sure. So you went from adult to kids, and you are now going back to your primary school, and the audience grows to 3 other schools. How do you how is your book club structured? Do you collect books from the public, you give them to the kids in the school, or do you just do the program like a normal adult book club where you choose a book a month and then you read it with your book club members?
Okay, so we do that. We actually pick a book on a monthly basis. So let me just tell you how it's structured, right?
Okay.
So initially when we started, we had a sponsor, Quali Books. They provided us with many books. I even lost count. There was a lot of books that we got from them. And initially when I started the adult book club as well, there are books that we received from people loving the idea. And what we then did, we donated the books to the schools, right? And as soon as we donated the books to the schools, we actually, at Well of Wisdom, we've got a team of facilitators that are running those sessions, the reading sessions with the children.
Oh, I see.
So, for example, I think we had about 40 children at Marulana where we started. So we would divide them into classes, and the team of facilitators would then conduct those reading sessions wherein a facilitator can randomly select maybe a student or a learner, and they would do a book review with them, because one of the things that we are passionate about as well is we want these kids to be able to speak publicly. We are preparing them for the world of work,
Yes,
from
that's
a young
true.
age. So we give them that platform to stand in front of class and tell us what they have read about, what they've learned from the book. So it's sort of like a book review session that we have with them. Yeah.
Okay. So 40 kids in your former primary school, and the other two schools, what were the numbers there?
So in the other two schools, we just requested learners that are really struggling to read, because we didn't want to have a large number. Even though the principals ended up giving us about 30.
Wow.
I can say between 25 to 30.
Oh, okay. So that's impressive, because the numbers I'm dwelling on, because I think it's so important. You are talking about a community of people who are not, necessarily going to have a book at home. And for them to be in an environment where 40 of them are participating in an initiative like a book club has leaps and bounds of progress for them, because number one, they will improve their literacy rate astronomically in comparison to the kids that they are in the same class and grade with, So I'm so inspired by that. Number one, the initiative itself is phenomenal, but the number of people that you're reaching and the potential and prospects that lie ahead for them just by being part of the book clubs is absolutely phenomenal. But now, let's talk about some of the challenges, because I can imagine you are in an environment where already there are a number of obstacles on the path just right off the bat, right? So what are some of the challenges that you experienced, even though you had an open door for you at your former primary school, and you really have more help than people trying to stand in your way? What did you experience that was a challenge?
Yeah. Well, I can say, Zandi, it's a challenge, but not a challenge at the same time. So, as I mentioned before, when we go out there and present our sessions, teachers actually love the idea, and they tell others to tell others about our project,
That's awesome.
And as a result, we get a large number of responses from schools wanting to be part of this initiative. And, at the moment, we don't have any funders, so it's quite difficult to tell, because the team of facilitators that we are working with are unemployed young people, So we have to get some more people who are interested in this project. But it's set to tell them that they won't earn anything, they won't be incentivized.
They'll be
So a lot of these young people that come on board actually use transportation, but I have to personally fund them, because of the passion that's within me. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we have faced is funding, and also having a lot of learners, or maybe not reaching out as much as we would want to, because of lack of resources and lack of funding as well.
Sure. And with your funding challenge, have you found, I'm sure you've tried. So have you found that the funding landscape in our country is either friendly or unfriendly towards education-based initiatives?
Yeah, so Zandi, I've realized that it is friendly. Okay, it's just a matter of how we reach out. Because I think from my side as a club, we've been struggling to structure the club. And as a result, it was not easy for us to actually articulate exactly what we do. And I will tell you why. This year, we recently launched a mobile library. And this was an initiative. Yeah, it was an initiative that was funded by a company called Pandrol and Starrock and Robson. So one of the things that I've learned throughout the journey ever since I started is it's important as a founder or an entrepreneur to know exactly what your project is all about, because you will then be able to articulate it, right?
Yes.
And pitch it to somebody else. And one of the things that has taught me as well, that I've learned, is that whenever you go out there and present your project, you need to actually be prepared. Somebody once said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, there are limitations, in the government. There are limitations that are there. But as well as an entrepreneur or a founder of an organization, you must just keep on pushing, keep on knocking, because there's so many people out there who want to sponsor your idea.
That's encouraging. That's very encouraging, because I believe that kind of eggs you on in light of what you've faced as challenges before, but now you've seen an opportunity to say that funders are actually friendly to this sort of environment of making sure that children are empowered through education and through literacy. So with that, what other areas, because you said you focus on the township and disadvantaged communities, have you tapped into rural communities at all?
Okay, so that's the long-term plan, Zandile. We are looking into going out there in the rural areas. There's a lot, there's a need there. One of the things that I have seen in rural areas, recently I've been at Mpumalanga in a place called Lothe. There's a lot of teenage pregnancy that happens there, shattered dreams. Children have to travel all the way to their school. Some don't even have transportation, so there is a need. And our long-term goals as a club is to reach out to such communities. We want to see change there, that's part of our vision, actually.
Sure. And have you found that with the people that you've helped, we spoke briefly about literacy and how it can just progress someone in leaps and bounds. Have you found that the children, like statistically or either through maybe some of the evaluations that you do with your group of learners, that the literacy rate, is drastically or marginally, or how have you found your group of learners to interpret what they've learned through the reading clubs and how it then translates to their academic life?
Yeah, so we've received good feedback from the schools that we've been working with. So we, like for example, at Marulana Primary School, we are working with the HOD for English. And she actually brought feedback that in 2018, when we were busy with those sessions, there was lots of improvement in the kids' academics. They started to do well, and their level of confidence grew as well. So
Sure.
yeah,
That's
there is so much progress, and there is.
Sure. Okay. So, on the kind of books that you read, do you focus exclusively on English books, or do you also go into indigenous languages like your Zulu and home languages?
Okay. So our main focus for now, Zandi, it's English, because we are working with township learners, and we are training them. Like I said before, for the world of work. I think English being a universal language, one of the universal languages, it's important that they have those skills. I mean, if you have to write your CV, you can't write it in your indigenous language. Moment, our focus is English for townships. It goes and continues. We will look into also indigenous languages, because we want to create a balance, and I'm going to give an example. I've got my 6-year-old niece.
Yeah.
She's like, she knows English now. And when she's around Gogo, it's difficult for her to communicate, So we want to create that balance as well, that as much as we are learning English, we also need to know how to read in our languages.
Yeah, and I recently had a guest who has a publishing house that focuses exclusively on indigenous languages. So I found what her insight was very important, because I think there is a lot of significance that we place on the English language, which is warranted. Like you're saying, we are preparing young people for the world of work. But I really believe that there is a heritage part that also cannot be ignored when it comes to, our home languages and the need for us to learn them, through literacy materials, so that we are adept in our own languages. But now, tell me some of the books. You mentioned a book company that you've worked with before. Do you need the public to help support you with the kind of books that you are reading in the clubs? For instance, for your mobile library, are you partnered with somebody who gives you the books, or do you also need people in the public to, support you by giving you their old books or buying books for children?
Oh, yes, definitely. Zandi, we need people. We welcome everyone who just wants to contribute to the club.
Okay.
At the moment, we don't have any specific designated sponsor for the book. So, for example, recently a friend of mine just sent me a text and told me she's got a lot of books, so I will be collecting them. And if you are watching today or listening and you just want to be part of the program, you're more than welcome to come on board and just help us reach out to more young people.
Oh, that's fantastic. You can give us your contact details so that people know who they're reaching out to, and if you have designated drop-off spots where people can just go leave the books and they can do that, you can share that with them now.
Okay, great. So they can simply drop us an email at info@wowbook. Did you get that?
Info@wow, which is WOW, book, BOOK, correct?
Yes. Club. Int, INT.
Okay.
.org.za.
Ah, okay. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, I think they can also WhatsApp us. We are also on Instagram and Facebook, and they can also WhatsApp us at 083 546 8110.
All right. I wanted to ask you one additional question. With COVID coming into the mix, how has that affected the way you manage your book club sessions?
Oh, that has been a challenge. Hey, Zandi, COVID has really, really challenged us. I mean, it has challenged everybody globally.
Yes.
Because we, in one of the adult sessions, we once used Zoom, but with the young ones, some don't even have smartphones, so we literally had to stop the sessions during the period of COVID, so it's been quite hard. But we're thankful that there was a time where everything almost went back to normal and we were able to launch the mobile library. And obviously with the restrictions, it's no longer the same. For example, when we go to the school, it shouldn't be a certain number of kids. We don't reach out anymore the way we wanted to. But we're just being positive and making impact as much as we can. We are looking into ways of introducing WhatsApp sessions as well, because we know that children have parents who have access to WhatsApp, so we are looking into those. We are looking into also introducing online sessions with the young ones, especially grade 7s, because they are now in a stage whereby they will be going to high school. And I think also as a club, we want them to know how to live into this new normal that is there,
Definitely.
because everything is just becoming virtual lately. So one of the things that we are passionate about. I mean, I've got an IT background. I feel like it's important to also understand this virtual space, even though social network can have its own disadvantages, but there are also advantages as well.
Yes,
they need to know how these things work. They need to know how to log on into Zoom sessions, MS Teams, etc. So we are also looking into ways where we can introduce virtual sessions with them.
Sure, I think that'll serve them quite well, because I think moving forward, the world is going to be very different, whichever way we look at it, and them participating in the virtual world will serve them in the long term. But now, with you having learners from grade 4 to 7, have you found that some of the ones that have now come out of the group that you serve, which is grade 4 to 7, do they come back to you and give you some feedback to say, no, I missed the book club, or I've started something similar because this was such an important and significant part of my literacy journey that I could not stop it? Or how do they fare when they move on from the book club?
So we are only depending on the feedback from teachers. We don't necessarily communicate with them. However, sometimes you would find that like in my old township where I used to stay, you would find that some kids would say, "Oh, Nang, this was a book club." They would just point at you. I say, "Oh, Osi Ole is the one who was helping me at the book club." So for me, that's like, oh wow, they still remember. So it's sort of like it boosts us as well as a club to say that, there is actually a difference that we're making in these young ones. But to answer your question, we get feedback from the teachers, like I mentioned before. They would just come to us and say, "Oh, so-and-so is doing well because they were part of this project. Keep on doing, keep on keeping on, keep on just making a difference out there." So we are encouraged by such.
Okay. And is there any prospect of you expanding it to the high school group from 8 to 12?
Maybe in like 10 years' time. Not now.
10 years?
Yeah, but you know what happens, Zandi? I think when you've got a vision, obviously it grows. Your vision grows. It doesn't stay stagnant.
Definitely.
But at the moment, we are strictly focusing on primary scholars. And I believe that when the club grows now, it can be in a position where we reach out, because there's a lot of there's a gap out there, and people just come to you. Why don't you start with a larger group? Why don't you start with an older group? I mean to say, so they would just say that. So for now, the main focus is just primary scholars. We just want to see a difference in them. And we know that they will become high scholars one day, and then they will come to us and say, "Hey, we just want you to continue with this."
Yeah, no, I'm definitely sure, because the need, there's no two ways about it. The need is definitely there, and it's a great need. But I think wherever you are helping, it is making a significant change and difference in the lives of those you are impacting. And in terms of your outreach, do you have any outreach in your community development efforts, or is it exclusively as well of wisdom lying in the literacy space, or are there other initiatives that you've put together?
Yes, so there are other initiatives. We've started tutorial programs.
Yes.
We just want to help these young ones academically. And we are looking at the young person holistically, We want them to prosper in every aspect of their lives. And also, we've recently introduced a publishing aspects in our organization, wherein we have seen that a lot of authors are struggling, when it comes to publishing their books. So we offer guidance in terms of book publishing. And we also want to establish a bookstore, because we want more South African authors, in the literature space, especially, I remember there are books that we used to read. I mean, I used to read Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe at high school. We did that book, So how about one day we read something that was written by Zandile,
definitely.
and we get tested on
yes.
in our examination. So one of our the lake that we've just introduced is just raising purpose-driven authors as well. We want to see our readers, every member of our club, being able to articulate their stories, because we believe that everybody has got a story to tell.
Definitely.
So if they can just have that story written in black and white and being sold as exclusive books, that would make a huge difference. So we are busy with tutorial programs, publishing, and we also want to establish a bookstore that will have all these books that are written by our authors.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that has been a mouthful, and I really appreciate you for the work that you do, because community development should really be at the heart of all our efforts, because we live in a country where there are so many disenfranchised people. We should all have one initiative or another that helps the next person take strides and find themselves in a better place. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you. Any parting shots from your side?
Well, I just want to say thank you for the invite. This was truly an amazing interview. I enjoyed. And all I want to say is I just want to encourage our viewers out there that reading is life. Hey,
Yes.
And I think it was Mary Schmitz who once said, reading is a discount ticket to everywhere.
Wow.
So I want to encourage our readers to just continue to read, use this time, this lockdown, or rather this COVID period, to equip yourself through reading. Try something new that will just make you to be great, because you are destined for greatness and you were created to do greater things. Who knows, you might be testifying and saying that during COVID, I managed to write 3 books.
Yes.
So I just want to encourage our listeners out there that never give up. Just continue to chase your dreams and just know that they are valid.
Oh, thank you so much, Amelia. We were blessed to have you on the show, and may your book club grow in leaps and bounds, and may you impact many children, and one day may they come back to you to tell you about the impact that you've made in their lives.
Thank you so much, Zandile.
Okay, thank you so much. After the break, we are going to be signing off, so please stay tuned. We'll catch you just now.
Zoe Live Radio, the abundant life experience.
You alone are my fortress, my shield, my exceedingly great reward.
Playing gospel music that makes you want to shout. Zoe Live Radio, the abundant life experience.
Welcome back. I trust that, what Amelia shared with us about Well of Wisdom has inspired you to either contribute to her cause or look at, how you can individually contribute to your community and have community development efforts, because every single child, every single person that you go out there and help, the impact that you may have on their life can have a lifelong sort of in effect in terms of how that person behaves, how that person changes their perspective and what it is that they choose to do moving forward based on your contribution. So this is us in July, and we have an announcement of our own. We are starting as Zoe Live Radio. We are starting our very own book club, and the first book that we are going to be looking at this month is none other than Nobuntu Webster's Fire in My Bones, Burning Everything Religion Has Taught Me. We are going to have our first book club meeting towards the end of the month. That date will be announced next week, and we will also share all the arrangements as to how you can either log in if it's going to be a virtual event, or if it's going to be a live event where it's going to be hosted. But just as a teaser for those who will be joining us for this club, Fire in My Bones opens up a can of holy worms, taking an honest look at our beliefs about God and each other across color, economic, and gender lines. Nobuntu Webster uses poignant personal experiences as a child, as a teenager, and as a Black African woman in the church to surface hard-hitting issues. The book dares to pose questions on practices and beliefs in the Christian faith which have broken generations, segregated communities, and alienated the modern believer. Immersed in scripture and sprinkled with comical anecdotes, this book challenges religion, racism, patriarchy, and poverty within and outside of the church, and it is a stirring for restoration. It is an insightful resource for those wanting to engage on long-held and perhaps faulty beliefs, those who need inspiration for their faith journey, and those who wish to seek out correct interpretation of the scriptures for an authentic relationship with God. I personally have read the book, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. So some of the insights that Nobuntu shares, those anecdotes that she talks about, you will laugh through parts of the book, you will cry through portions of the book, because some of the information, but also the stories that she shares are so hard-hitting. You really need to read it for yourself. And I look forward to those who will be joining us on the club so that we can read it together and we can share our insights and talk about what it is that we've experienced in our own churches, in our own environments, religious environments where we have either been hurt or helped, and how we can sort of collectively come to a place of restoration so that we can move on and grow as the body of Christ. But thank you so much for joining us for this week. I really look forward to next week where we'll be chatting to another author. So for this week, I will be signing off with you guys. I trust you'll have a fruitful week. Please wear your masks. Please sanitize. Please maintain social distancing. Level 4 is not a joke. And I trust that you will all stay safe. And until next week, may God bless you.